Welcome to this episode of the GROWTHCAST. It is me, Jackson Campbell, here on a beautiful Wednesday morning, though this episode will drop on a Saturday. It is a beautiful Saturday morning here, and I'm here with Dallas Pruitt. I'm very lucky to be back for another Saturday extended cut with him. Dallas, how are you, bro?
Dude, I'm doing great. It is it's a wonderful day. It's gotten cold. It's getting cold in my hometown.
Is it?
We're rolling into fall. Leaves haven't changed yet, but it is like super wet outside, and I freaking love it because I get to wear hoodies.
Starting to get brisk.
And, football season. It's great, dude.
Yes. Good stuff. As you guys noticed, Dallas, we didn't have an extended cut last week with Dallas. He was out of town, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. His trip that he had, I definitely have some questions for him about his trip. But before we dive into that, make sure that you rate and review the podcast if you haven't yet, and share it with those that you think could benefit from the podcast. But let's dive in. I'm really excited to talk to you about your trip, Dallas. I know you take these trips a couple times a year. Maybe it's just once a year.
Yeah.
How often do you go on these hunting trips? Honestly,
the style of hunt that I just did, I don't do very often. Typically I got 4 kids and, work and everything else. So it's hard for me to get out of service and like disconnect at the level that I did this last week. But I was lucky enough, and we planned accordingly to be able to go to the back country of Wyoming. For those that don't know, that's a state in the United States of America. And, it was awesome, dude. It was so great. It was freaking unbelievable. GPS didn't have service. I think it's rare that like a lot of people get into a spot where you're literally in like a roadless, like just completely out of civilization where you don't have any contact. And I would highly recommend it for everyone, but it was awesome, dude. Loved it.
Let's lead into that. Why would you recommend that for everyone?
Oh man. I just think that, most people don't even know what it's like to go an hour without having service on their phone, or, if their battery dies or something like that. I mean, there's these disorders that literally exist now where panic attacks, ensue when people's batteries die on their phone. So, to do something where even if you wanted to, like you can't find service or gain access to all of those things that you're bombarded with or enticed by every day. And I also think it's just, the relationship with yourself is the hardest one to cultivate. Being comfortable with you and being real with you. Quietness provides you the reality of that, right? Like you're left to nothing but just your relationship with yourself, your thoughts, the conversation you're having. And, so many people distract themselves from engaging in that relationship and cultivating a stronger relationship with oneself. I think unknowingly, like people just, that a lot of what we do is literally a distraction subconsciously from doing the work necessary to have a really good relationship with who you are and being comfortable of where you're at, or uncomfortable, if you will, of where you're at, and sitting in the reality of that, knowing that like your potential is way higher than what you're performing, and that there's work ahead. And I mean, everything we talk about, right? Like, I mean, that's a great loaded question because,
it was a great answer.
Yeah.
Dude, let me just comment on that really quick before you move on here, dude. You talk about being away from civilization, not having any service, letting your cell phone die, whatever may happen. What it's sounding like to me, dude, is it sounding like it's almost necessary to have extended amounts of stillness, like extended time of stillness. One of the books of the month of the Multifamily Mindset is Stillness is the Key, right? And it talks about making sure you have still moments every single day and like really connecting with yourself and being still and getting rid of all those distractions. But what you're talking about is an extended period of time where you have those things removed.
Oh man. And I think that Stillness is the Key is a great title. And that book is all about stillness and what part of what I experienced the last six days. But the reason it's key is because if you want to become the best version of yourself, like you have to be comfortable in who you are. And again, like getting to know you is the hardest person to get to know. And it's the scariest process for most people in those initial stages. It's like we run subconsciously or consciously from our problems, from our mistakes, from our errors, because, we just want to stay safe. We want to stay safe.
It's easy to do now as well, man. It's so easy to run from your mistakes. It's so easy to run from your problems. It's so easy because it's literally in your pocket.
And it's so easy to live in a fog.
Totally. Be distracted from it. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And yeah, man, that's one of the main reasons why I love those types of trips, is because it gives me a really good opportunity to get back in check with that most important relationship. And for me, that most important relationship is God. And then secondary is me, like the relationship with me. And so I really loved that about the trip, is it gave me an opportunity to really gut check my relationship with myself and sift through some of the things that have been weighing heavy on me and just gain clarity, man. Like, in order to gain clarity, you've got to create distance. And that was a really easy way for me to create distance.
And that's a great takeaway from this episode already. An easy way to create clarity is to create distance from what?
Distance from all the distraction and all the noise, right?
And even the problem. Even the problem. Or the difficulty, removing yourself from the difficulty for a while. Yeah, no, totally.
But then by doing that, you actually can really address the problem a lot better. And sometimes things that you think are problems aren't problems. And so it just, again, clarity gives you like this opportunity to realize what truly are the problems. And they're a lot fewer than what you think sometimes because of that noise. And then being able to, be better equipped when you go back, to know what is right, what you need to do. So, very
so Dal, such a good answer to the first question of why you go out there and do what you do, but what is it that you're out there doing? Why do you go? What is it that you're hunting? What is that? What is that?
This was the first time I archery hunt. I would like to consider part of my identity. I'm an archer. I try, and I've had some success over the years, nothing in comparison to, the greats or anything like that. But I have harvested a few animals with my bow, which is a challenge in and of itself. But this time it was a bull elk. This is the first time I've ever had a bull elk tag. And a bull elk is a different beast. You hunt them different than the animal that I'm used to, which is a mule deer. And the hardest part is they live in holes. I just call them holes. They live in holes. So we camped at like 8,000 feet. And then we had to hike up a canyon every morning up this drainage. And then we had to go, 2,000 feet straight vertical to get up to this saddle and then go up over the top, because the elk aren't going to live where people are driving, where the roads are, right? So you have to go back in there. And then once you get in there, you have to drop back down 2,000 feet because they're living in the bottom of the canyon where it's nice and cool. And they've created wallows. They're weird. They like to roll in mud and cover themselves and smell. And so anyways, that in and of itself was just like a mental challenge every day, is just to like wake up and go.
You had this hard
go through a grind to even get into the area where they were at. So yeah, it was awesome. It was a cool experience. But elk, they are probably one of the most, a bull elk is one of the most challenging hunts I've been on so far, for sure. It had me questioning my sanity, because you hear them and you see them and you think, well, this should be pretty easy. And dude, they're not big by accident. They're smart animals. That's their domain, as evolved as I am. I am less evolved in that specific environment. And it's pretty humbling. It was a pretty humbling experience.
So you go out there, so essentially you're out there putting yourself through some pretty tough hiking, some pretty tough climate. So it sounds like you're camping. So
beautiful misery is what I called it. I think on
misery.
Mindset Monthly this month with our network, I think I called it beautiful misery. That's what you're going through.
What do you gain from that?
Yeah, I gained a ton. It's one of the biggest things that I gain is I am able to come out of that experience with an increased confidence in my ability to do hard things. And so, I'm going through that experience on purpose, not just and the purpose isn't just to harvest an animal. the purpose is to challenge myself. I mean, I think it would be the same as if somebody chose to run a marathon, right? Like that is my version of a marathon. So I gained a ton. One, I gained an increased ability to speak to myself the right way, right? Because you're not going to get through 6 days of grinding like that if you have a negative conversation with yourself, with the opportunities you're creating. You're not going to be able to do that. And so I think one of the biggest takeaways is I come out of that hard experience that I went into on purpose with an increased ability to talk to myself properly about hard things. I have an increase in gratitude, right? I see all this beauty. I see all this. You can't focus on the negative because again, you would get in the truck and you would go home. Do you experience hard things? Yeah. Is it hard? And can you get a little negative? For sure. But if you allow yourself to go down that route, you're going to get in the truck and you're going to drive home after 2 or 3 days of doing it. Right. The only thing that keeps you going is that story you're telling yourself, that optimism, that positivity, that gratitude. And so it gives me it just increases my consciousness to be able to do that better, and see the results that come from it. Right. Physically, dude, my body benefited from it. Yeah, it was broke down, but just like any other, muscle, these muscles, when they were broke down, they were able to come back stronger. It was a great weight loss exercise for 6 days. It was, but, dude, it also increased this is weird, but it increased my love for my job. It increased my love for my family. It increased my love for my friends. It increased my love for my neighborhood. And so
that was going to be my next question. What'd you benefit from it? It's out that obviously you go out there and it's so hard and you take all this time away from your family, away from your passions, away from your work, and you take this time to go do it, obviously, because you benefit from it.
Totally.
So yeah, dude, what are some of those benefits that you get from hunting?
Yes. So again, an increase in gratitude and love for all these things that maybe, and I bring that back up because the reason that's such a benefit is because it is actually a trap that we fall into when we're in the thick of it, when we're in the day-to-day, right? We fall into the trap of thinking that our work sucks. And that's a loaded statement. I mean, there's lots of different reasons why we would pinpoint why it sucks. Or my family and my kids and all these irritations that come from like just running around and doing X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, it's funny. You get out of that, you get away from it. And with an increase in gratitude, because of the distance that you've created, all of a sudden you start to notice and recognize the blessings all those things provide, all of those things are. And so again, creating distance, like it's just such an important piece to growing, to, and I think, but I also think like, I mean, this is going to get deep, but we think of growth and we think of like adding to, literally like physical, tangible things, whether it's monetary.
When you think growth, you think something getting larger.
Yes, but it's like,
bigger.
There's this mental component to it in terms of like, some things are already very large. It's just you that lacks. It's just you. That's the growth that type of experience provides me, is a better understanding of growth on a broad scale, which is, again, I actually have a ton of abundance already. And I think if we were really going to kind of bring it back to some terminology that we use often, a scarcity mindset, go on a trip to the backcountry of Wyoming and reflect, and you will recognize how susceptible every single one of us is to numbingly adopting a scarcity mindset about our lives.
Yeah.
And you don't have the opportunity to recognize or notice that unless you proactively go out and do something like, it doesn't have to be what I did, but do something like I did.
Difficult,
exactly. Something that's shitty, something that's hard, something that's not, I mean, nobody's watching, right? Nobody's watching. I'm not calling somebody and giving them an update. I'm not, there's nothing glorious about what I'm doing. There's nothing, I don't get any recognition. I don't, it's just me and the elements, and that's it. And so to be able to go do that and reflect without any distraction of something like that or anything else, it just really puts a lot of things in perspective and in check, man. Like, it's like, you want to grow your perspective, you want to gain perspective, then you need to challenge yourself to doing something like this. You need to create distance. You need to give yourself a better platform to increase your perspective and increase your recognition and your ability to notice how abundant you have it versus how scarce you have it.
Yeah, dude, one of the things that I realized when I just did that Spartan race, right? You're talking about something hard you did, and it's kind of reminded me of this, is I didn't really understand what my abilities were until I pushed it to complete exhaustion, right? Or complete failure, or pushed it as hard as I could. And that goes for anybody in any aspect, in anything that they're trying to accomplish, and anything they're trying, any endeavor they're trying to take down, is you've got to push yourself to that point of failure so you know what you're capable of. I didn't even know I was capable of going as far as I did. You probably didn't know you were capable to be able to hike up and down these valleys every
I never thought we were going to go 45 miles in 6 days.
45 miles.
Yeah, 45 miles in 6 days. I didn't have a number that I had notched up where I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, that's all I can do. I just kept going. And I think that is a huge benefit, Jax, like you said. How do you know what you're capable of when you haven't pushed yourself to complete exhaustion? And so I think that's one lesson, that whether it was you in the Spartan race or me and my hunt, or anybody else doing something that's like one of those things, that is a huge gain, which is you start to understand that really my physical limitations, that's not what limits me. It's actually the mental block. It's actually this mindset component. And that's why it's so crucial to study. You talked to a group of individuals this week where you gave the invite, like, hey, I invite you to study mindset. I invite you to study the things that work and really compartmentalize them, put them into practice, and build on them. And it's why we don't keep our mouth shut. It's why we, do what we do every single week here, is because you don't really know what you're capable of until you try. And not just try, but like try a little harder, and then try a little harder. And then, but also, like, that's one thing that it provided me, is like, I had no other option. We always give ourselves an out there. I just didn't have an out. So it's like when I hiked, there was one day where we hiked about, it was like 5.5 miles up and over this giant mountain and then down into this drainage. We just kept following bugles. And I mean, we were zoned out. It was just like, we were locked in on a bugle. We weren't logging miles. We were just going. But then we got down in this hole, and I remember looking at my buddies, and I was like, holy shit, like, how did we end up here? And then all of a sudden it hits you, and it's like, oh, I have to get back. Like, we have to hike out of here. And if we kill an elk, we have to pack this thing out of here. Holy crap. Right. And a little bit of panic, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of, just like fear not a little bit, a lot settles in. But then you're like, I have no other option. And what was cool, and this was something that I had, wanted to kind of come full circle with, is it mattered that we got back. Why? Well, dude, because we had no other option. I have a family. My truck's back at base camp. All of our food's back there. There's no other option. Like, literally, I had no out. So mentally, I had to get myself into a zone that, like, I don't normally get into, and it mattered enough. And so we got out of there, right? Like, there's just no other option. So the whole point is, if it matters, you're going to make time, and you're for whatever it is, and you're going to find a way. And that's one thing that's cool about a situation or an experience that you proactively put yourself into like that, is you start to really grasp how that works. Not because somebody's telling you, but because you're physically and mentally, you threw yourself into that situation, and now you have no other option. And that's why I would invite anybody to go do something like that, is because you don't know what you're capable of until you put yourself into a situation to figure out what you're capable of. You can hear about it, you can talk about it, but you've got to proactively find an experience like a Spartan race, or a hunt in the backcountry, or a marathon, or whatever the hell it is. You have to proactively find something like that, and then throw yourself straight into it. Yep. And see what happens. Then you will benefit.
You will understand everything that we're talking about in a greater depth. but you'll also be able to understand it and be able to use those things, and it'll benefit you.
It'll be personal to you. It's not going to be a story that somebody like Jackson or Dallas or Tyler or Rowan or whoever told you.
It's for you.
You will know. And that is the difference maker. So that's an invite of itself, and an actionable in of itself is like, pick something, stretch it, do something completely beyond what you've ever done before, and just throw yourself into it and embrace the hell out of the failure that's going to come through it. Because that's the other piece, to kind of like end the story. I came home with no elk. I came home a better person. I came home with lots of cool pictures of sunsets and elk and animals and all sorts of stuff, things that other people, I'm sure, because they have poor definitions of success, would have said, well, that sucks. But dude, it was so amazing. And yes, I failed, but it made me that much more motivated to go back out and strive for better failure the next time, because of all the things that I gained from it, and all the clarity and all the gratitude and all the transformation that I gained from that experience. And again, I'd throw out the invite to anybody to go find their elk hunt, go do something like that. Go find their Spartan race. Something that's cool that we're planning on doing. I mean, this is like worth the invite for anybody that's part of our network, and really anybody that just even want to reach out. I mean, we plan, as a team to go out and do a Spartan race once a year, and Jackson and I, and really his team out there more heavily, because they're together day to day. We're going to go do it again, because again, culturally within our company, culturally within our circle, that's just, we know what comes from it. And so we don't shy away from it. We embrace it. And we invite everybody else those opportunities. Totally.
Yep, exactly. Dallas, thank you so much, man, for talking about your experience there, hunting, all those things that you learned. A bunch of really great takeaways from this episode, but ultimately the invite to go find whatever it is your elk hunt, and
find your heart, man.
Yeah. Find your heart and go do it and learn from it and grow from it. Dallas, thank you so much. Everybody listening, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you. Please, again, just another reminder to rate, review, and share the episode so as many people can benefit from Dallas's wisdom, Tyler's wisdom, as much as possible. So please do share. We appreciate you for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, y'all.